to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dixie Stewart, can you please help us with the invocation, please?
Let us pray.
Lord, we are so grateful that we live in a country where we are free to gather like this, to talk about matters that concern us directly, concern our community directly, our children and our livelihoods and our day-to-day lives. I pray that you will be with each candidate tonight, that you will give the moderators the wisdom to ask the right questions, that you will give the candidates the wisdom to give the appropriate answers. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us for the Pickens County Republican Party Post 1 and Post 2 Commissioner Committee Forum. I'm being joined by Gary Orman, who serves with the Lions of North Georgia. There's another one of our moderators, and Christina Jorno, who will be our timekeeper. Since the East and the West Commissioners have similar responsibilities and will effectively have the same voting power in each district, it made sense to have all the candidates together to be able to answer the questions for the role of commissioner. We will rotate. We'll start at the end, ask Mr. Tucker the first question, go through the panel. The next question, we'll start then with Josh, and we'll alternate and go through. There will be, each candidate will have an opportunity for one rebuttal. Please raise your hand for a rebuttal, and you will be called upon after everyone's had an opportunity to answer the question. But let's get started and have each one of the candidates introduce themselves with an opening statement.
Hello, Pickens County. I'm Rick Tucker, and I'm running for the county commissioner seat for the Western District of Pickens County. And I'd like to thank Chris Moore and the Republican Party of Pickens County, and also No Pickens, for allowing me and the rest of us to be here and take part in this event. Thank you so much.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank all you guys for coming out. There's all kinds of issues and consequential election and all kinds of stuff going on, and it shows a lot about you guys' character that you care enough to come out and hear what each one of the candidates have to say. So thank you for coming. My name is Josh Tippins. I've lived on the west end of Pickens County for the last 23 years, graduated from Pickens High School and Appalachian Technical College. I've worked for the same company for the last 17 years. In that time, I've managed teams and managed capital projects all across the southeastern United States. But while I've been doing that, I've also been at work in the community. I graduated from the Leadership Pickens program. I'm in several civic and professional organizations around the county. And my goal in running for commissioner is to ensure, or at least do my part to help make sure that Pickens County remains a place that's as good for your children and my children as it was for you and I when we were growing up. This is a consequential election. We're at a crossroads for the county. And at the end of the day, we want to do the best we can to make sure it stays a place that we recognize and we call home. So thank you guys for coming, and I look forward to tonight.
Yeah, my name is David Schaus. Echo the same thing as Josh here about, we got 34,000 people in this county, and 40 people, 50 people showed up with interest in this election. We've come a long ways in just the last couple of years. I think 5 of us are running from the west, and we've got along the whole time. I think we've all got some similar views, but I think we've got different ways of getting it done eventually. And I asked for your vote. The same thing, I'm doing this. I really feel probably in the next 2 to 3 years will determine the next 2 decades in this county. If we don't get some things done, if we don't find a way to get them done, then we're going to be behind the bus. And I think we already are in a few things. I think the current administration is trying to catch us up. They're doing a great job. And I just have an outside-the-box look at things that I think we can get some things done with some of my accomplishments in the private sector.
My name is Robert Watson. Been in Pickens now for about 7 years. can tell that it's grown a lot in that 7 years since I've been here, and I would like to help with the growth. I came here because I didn't really want the growth, wanted to get out of the city, but it's coming, and I would like to help transition the best we could without, I don't want to see us turn into Cherokee County, 273,000 people. But I think there's a way to go about this to where we can generate revenue without bringing in more population. And I also want to thank all you for coming. And
I'm Brian Cleghorn. I live out Hill City. I've been in Pickens County, give or take 23 years. I'd like to thank every one of y'all for being here. I know it's not exactly the most convenient time to come out in the middle of the week at 7 o'clock at night. Like David said, it's amazing to see the people that'll turn out when you give them the opportunity. I want to see the county, I want it to be like it was when I moved here for my kids. And that's, my focus is on the next generation. We've got to leave it, give them something to work with. Instead of just buildings everywhere and houses everywhere and people everywhere. Give them the Pickens County that they need. Not the Pickens County everybody outside of here thinks that we want. Thank y'all.
My name is Dave Garner. I'm the post 2 candidate, along with my opponent, Josh Tatum. And I appreciate him being here tonight. I do, and I appreciate all these guys here. I'm like a lot of you. I'm kind of a spectator when it comes to the West End with so many guys. I'm kind of interested to see what all they have to say. But I do feel confident that whoever emerges from that side, I'll be able to work with those folks. Again, I've been a resident here for over 20 years now, and I've been ingrained in the community in a number of contexts. The one thing that I want to do is I want to bring an element of education to my campaign. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of people that I've talked to in the last week or two that have made their decisions about who they want to vote for, and even some that support me, who are basing their decisions on things that are not technically county government functions. Senior tax exemptions, Main Street growth along Highway 515, and those are things that are not relevant to our positions here tonight. So one thing I will do is I will spend a little bit of time here and there, maybe not necessarily during this format, but talking about some of the things that truly affect the job and what it is that we actually will be doing once we get in there, because I think there are some folks that are misinformed. I would say that most of the people in this room tonight are very informed. That's why you're here, because you're involved and you understand that. So I do appreciate all of you guys being here tonight. I especially want to thank our media. We've got several different folks here that are recording this. So, the folks that are in this room, appreciate you guys being here. Also, those that are watching at home, because as Mr. Shouts alluded to, the next couple of years, I think are going to be the most important over the next couple of decades. And there are reasons why I feel that way that we'll get into later, but I do appreciate you guys being here. Thank you.
My name is Josh Tatum. I'm the other candidate running for Post 2. I'm a 5th generation Waconian. I graduated from Pickens High back in '98 and went to Athens to UGA. I got my BS in horticulture and came back, and I worked out at a nursery in Hickory Flat in southeast Cherokee County, and that's one of the reasons I'm running that for my kids. I don't want to see us turn into another Canton or Woodstock or Marietta, which I know a lot of people moved up here trying to escape all that. And that's what we need to do, is to try and preserve our rural lifestyle and just not turn into another city. So I appreciate y'all coming out. I appreciate y'all having us, and thank you very much.
Well, guys, my name is Gary Norman. As Chris said, I'm representing the Conservative Alliance of North Georgia. And Chris and I, in talking about our questions tonight, we wanted to get to the root of the issues very simply. So in keeping with that, you're going to find this question very simple and straightforward. The very first one is, what is the role of a county commissioner? Mr. Tucker.
In my opinion, the county commissioner's job is to make sure that the hospital, roads, and schools, that everything stays intact and is efficient enough to support the growth that is eventually going to come to the county.
Mr. Tippett.
Yeah, so, the county commissioners, they do have a large role in developing budgets and all that kind of thing, but I think the primary role of a county commissioner is to serve as a system of checks and balances to our commission chairman. Commissioner Stansel does a great job, and he interfaces with these people every day. And I know firsthand from my own management experience that when you're in the trenches working with people, and they're asking you for things, and you may recognize the need, but at the end of the day, if necessarily your budget doesn't line up and agree with that, sometimes it's easy to cave and say, yeah, you can have that. And I think that's what the county commissioners are there for, is to serve as a system of checks and balances. To say, hey, I recognize that need, and you may very well need it, but it doesn't really align with the budget this year. So we move it into the future, we line that up, and we set it up to make it happen. But at the end of the day, I think the East and West commissioners are ultimately there to serve as checks and balances.
Mr. Souse.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of miseducation out there on how the three commissioners work. You have a west and an east. Generally, if you have a zoning issue, budget issue, things like that, you have the west and east vote at the commission meetings. If there's a split, then Chairman Stansel can make that decision. I think that people in the east and the west don't understand that the west commissioner is just as important to them as the east commissioner. The other thing, the number one thing or two things I think that the commissioners are responsible for is A, protecting the taxpayer's wallet and protecting the future of this county. And we all have different avenues if we want to go in the county, but the main thing that I hear out there is that we want to protect the serenity of this area, but we do want some more services, we do want some more amenities, we do want a little bit more bang for our buck on the taxes that we're paying. If we don't put some things into place, which is the commissioner's job, to protect those two items, which is A, our wallet, and B, the future, then we're going to fail. So that's the two things I think the commissioners need to do.
Very good. Mr. Watson.
It's a pretty simple question. I think that I'm here just to represent the citizens, protect them, their interests. Majority kind of rules, you know. If we have an issue and enough people have the same issue, well, then I'm going to represent that group, you know, for whatever that may be. But ultimately, I would like just to be here to speak for the people, whatever they want. It comes to taxes, roads, water, whatever it is.
Mr. Packhorn.
Well, I mean, everybody down through here has got the right answer. But the East and the West Commissioner are there, number one, to represent the people of their district. The majority of the people in that district rule. And that's it. We protect the citizens in our district. We help Mr. Stansel with any decision that comes before we vote on it. He votes at the typewriter. You know, it's settling the issues of the county, handling the business of the county, policy-wise, budget-wise. Whoever wins this thing, we're not in the day-to-day operation. But planning for today, tomorrow, and 20 years down the road. Helping set policy to accomplish goals that both sides of the county want to see happen. And then go from there. That's what the post commissioner is supposed to do.
Mr. Carter.
So the short answer is leadership. I think that that's what we need more than anything out of our entire commission is well-rounded leadership, common sense leadership, understanding that we can't outgrow our infrastructure. You're going to hear a lot tonight about the comprehensive land plan that we're going to dive into, and we're going to talk a lot about that, and that's the focus, obviously, is the growth, development, water, sewage, all those things that we're talking about. But the thing that we need to understand is the role of the county commission. There are 14 different departments of county government, and all of them need our due diligence, from the animal shelter to the recycling center, to working with the airport authority, to working with our Parks and Recreation, which is hosting this here tonight. We all talk about the upgrades. We've got to find a balance. And that's really, I feel like, the job of the county commissioners to come in and to assist the citizens. The number one job we have ultimately really is to protect our citizens. I mean, that number one, we've got to protect our citizens. Beyond that, we've got to seek out opportunities, and like Mr. Watson said, I love his answer. I'm running my campaign based on being the voice for the people. So, you know, you may not hear a lot out of me as far as, you know, I'm anti this or I'm pro that, because it really is what you guys want. And the one promise I'll make, because I've learned you don't make promises in government, right? It comes back to bite you in the rear end, right? But I will make this one promise. The one promise I will make is that I'll vote for the people and not myself. And whatever that means, if there's a need that exists in this community, then I'll be glad to entertain it and do my due diligence and at least bring it to the table. And that is what I feel like is the role of a post commissioner.
Very good. Mr. Tatum?
I mean, there's not a whole lot to add what these gentlemen are saying. I mean, just, you know, we have final votes on things such as zoning, water expansion, that sort of thing, and that's what we really have to focus on, is keeping the zoning in line with how it's set up right now, so that we don't lose the identity of our hometown. Making sure we have enough water for our county. That's a big issue for us, since we have no rivers here and we're already buying in the majority of our water. You know, we've got to stay on top of that. Making sure our park that we have here is, you know, make sure it's kept up, make sure the airport is funded, that sort of thing. All of those things, just like they've been saying, just making sure we're managing the money properly and spending the people's money well.
Very good. Chris. Mr. Tibbins, being that we have three commissioners, what do you understand the rules to be of Georgia's Open Meetings Act?
Right, so my understanding is that law was essentially put in place to keep the work of the government in the public eye, right? So as that would pertain to the county commission, with a three-commissioner board, you can't have a quorum of people present at any time to discuss business. So if you've got three commissioners, whoever wins, we can't make phone calls to each other to discuss county business. I couldn't call Commissioner Stansel. I couldn't call either one of these gentlemen from the East End. So essentially, we can't talk to each other, is the short of it. And it's all for the greater good. We don't want backdoor dealings. We don't want shady business going on. We want to keep everything transparent in the public eye.
Chris, can you repeat that one again? Make sure I...
Sure. Being that we have three commissioners,
Yep.
what do you understand the rules to be of the Georgia Opens Meetings Act?
Yeah, same thing Josh just said, but the rules are in place to promote transparency, to promote those underhanded dealings, to promote those, you know, lunches where you're not even really together, maybe to discuss something, and a certain developer comes up, something like that you're talking about candidly, and prevent some things that have happened previously in the county, not under this leadership, but in previous administrations. So you're not going to have Chris and I going to lunch and talking about development out in the west. You're not going to have whoever wins the East going. So it's really to protect and promote transparency in any underhanded dealings.
Mr. Watson?
They both just described the definition. It's just to keep transparency where what we see in Washington, D.C. doesn't happen here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say, because they pretty much answered the question. It absolutely is just for transparency.
And again, understand, I think it's important that everyone understands what that is and what a slippery slope that would be, being that we only have three commissioners. So Brian, do you have anything to add to that?
Isn't that what they used to call sunshine law? Isn't that it? Still do. Still do, don't you? That's what we always call it. It's exactly that. Keep everything honest. Keep everything transparent. Like David said, stop the backdoor deals. You want to talk about it, you talk about it when we're supposed to talk about it. Not mimicking each other. You know, it is what it is. Keep everybody transparent and honest.
Sure.
Basically what it means is Cleghorn and I can't have Sunday brunch together anymore.
I told you not to tell that. Yeah, the one time he can't listen.
But it's like everyone else has said, the sunshine laws exist for the sake of transparency, and I think that's what we need. We need leadership, but we also need transparency in government. A lot of people, and I'm sure every one of us up here has been asked why we ran. People have told me for years, we need good people in government. And, I like to think that I'm one of those people that will be transparent. I don't have a lot of deep-rooted family connections. I don't own a bunch of land in this county. I don't feel like I'm in anyone's pocket, but there is a system of checks and balances that basically keeps us from doing any of those kinds of deals like these other gentlemen said. So.
There's not much more to add else about. Yes, keep us honest. So everyone knows what the deals are that are going on. We can't do anything right behind closed doors. So that's why we do it.
Mr. Tucker?
And it's, like everyone said, it's basically for transparency, so there's no backdoor dealings or underhanded things, and that everything that's discussed is like an open door policy for all the citizens and the public to keep an eye on what the commissioners and everyone else is doing, and make sure it's all on the up and up, and everything's transparent.
Gentlemen, when you have so many of you, I don't want any of you to think that because you're at the end of the line, that it diminishes your answer. It's very important that you get on the record with the people, residents of Pickens County. So even though it's redundant, and you're saying it again and again and again, it's very important that we know what your position is. Okay, so question number 3. What specific skills do you possess that would make you an effective Pickens County Commissioner? Mr. Souse.
I'm a deal maker. That's what I do. I've been doing it, and to address a couple things. I've been able to bring deals here that nobody else was able to do. It's proven. And I don't want to get in my accolades. I don't want to be but from the VA, the dialysis, to multiple restaurants, businesses, they've came to me after all the other people were off the table, and we brought them here. We've done the deal. That's what I do. I think outside the box. I figure out a way to make things happen with the money that I have. I've been told my whole life that I wasn't going to get something done. I wasn't going to make something happen. And I proved it wrong every time. Except when I ran against Chris. That one I got proved wrong though. But I just make deals. And I think outside the box. And no matter how much that maybe I hear about someone or how much maybe someone dislikes me, I'm always open-minded. My employees that work for me, they'll tell them I'm as fair as they come. I get a chance after chance after chance. But that's where I come in, is I'm always open-minded no matter what, and it's what's best for the group that's around me, which in this situation are the citizens of Pickens County, both east and west.
Mr. Watson.
So I'm a developer, but not a typical developer. I look at Pickens County, the resources we have, the mountains, the streams, creeks. People come here for that, right? I'm not big into destroying the forest to build. I like to take my stuff and put it into the forest so that we maintain what we have, the reason people come here. I've seen this record play before. I grew up in West Cobb County, and I wouldn't want to live there. I didn't even recognize it when I came back. I don't want that to happen here. I mean, all we got to go is south, one county, and it's happening to them. I just want to protect this place. I wouldn't care if the population never got above 40,000 people, but I know there's a way to generate revenue for this county without bringing in more population. I actually, it'll probably come up later, but anyway, so yeah.
Very good. Mr. Clegg.
Repeat that question.
What specific skills do you possess that would make you an effective Pickens County Commissioner?
Well, it's like in the role I'm in now. the numbers is what makes everything. I've got the ability to talk to people, but I'm a numbers guy. Everything, doesn't matter what you're doing, it all boils down to basic numbers. Now, I'm not exactly known as a guy with an open mind 100%. Because there's certain things that I'm immovable on. I don't want to see, I will not see if I win. I will not see Pickens County turned into another Cherokee County. I will not see the future of the county diminished because we won't. There's certain things I'm immovable on. Keeping Pickens County is one of those things. Now, there's policies and there's things out there that we can do to keep us that way. The people that are in charge of the county now, I have no problem working with. I talk to Chris all the time. When it comes down to the end of the day, the ability I have to reason things out with people, I think is what's going to make me an effective commissioner.
Mr. Garner.
I think the number one quality I would say is I'm a good listener. And I think that's one of the qualities that you have to have when you're in an elected position, is you've got to be willing to listen to the people. A lot of people accuse me because my broadcast background of talking too much, and that's why I'm really keeping my eye on her tonight, because she's the timekeeper. But I promise I am a good listener, and I have went ever since this campaign. I was the first candidate, by the way, to make my announcement that I was coming out. And ever since that time, over the last couple of months, I've been listening every day in the business community, the residential community, the civic community, the not-for-profit community, what have you. And I've been listening to those needs. The other thing that I feel like I possess, and I don't know, I know God gives us all different gifts. I feel like He's really given me the ability, the uncanny ability to connect with people. Because there's very few people that I meet that I can't connect with on some level, emotional level, professional level, what have you. And my last 20 years here, I've led civic organizations. I've been chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. I've been in Rotary. I'm involved now with our American Legion as part of the Sons of American Legion. We do a lot with our veterans, and I think those folks have served. I worked right behind us here, Advisory Council for the Boys and Girls Club, so numerous nonprofits and civic groups and organizations over the last 20 years. And I've heard those concerns, and I do listen, and I feel like that is the one quality that I have that lends itself well to this position, because you've got to be that voice for your district, as Clayborn said earlier. That's what I want to be, the voice, but I also want to listen, keep my ear to the ground in our community.
Mr. Tate.
I'm a numbers person. I'm a buyer for the nursery I work for, and that's what I do all day long. I have to deal with budgets, making sure the numbers are lining up, that things are going to turn out the way they're supposed to, and I'm good at that. So I think when it comes to budgets and that sort of thing, that's where I'll have a strong suit there. I'm also, as much as I'm stuttering right now, because I'm not good talking to a group of people, but a small group of people, I'm pretty good. I'm very good at listening to people, understanding what they're saying, and helping them out. So that's what I would say.
Very good. Mr. Tucker.
First time I'm here as support leader for the blind and visually impaired support group. Here in North Georgia, I'm also an administrator for another peer support group called BOLS, which is a peer support group for blind and visually impaired individuals in North Georgia. So I know how to work with people, how to help people try to achieve their goals. Also have a business degree from Kennesaw State, so I know how to work with the numbers and develop a management plan for what the county needs to do to control the growth in the future. communicated what they want their goals to be for the county and to help them achieve them.
Mr. Tibbetts.
So I think probably the biggest thing that I have to offer is what I've developed over the last 16, 17 years of my professional career, and that's leadership. 10 of those years, I've either been in direct management positions, or I've been in project management or design roles where I've actually designed and oversee the construction of those capital projects I was talking about earlier. But what I take away from all of that with the leadership is, number one, the ability to listen and interpret what people need, what their expectations are, and ultimately communicate with them in a way, much like Dave Garner was talking about a second ago, where you can relate to somebody, right? I mean, we all have objectives that we're trying to reach, but at the end of the day, how do you get everybody to meet in the middle? And like Mr. Schaus said earlier, let's make a deal, right? How do you get people together to compromise so that everybody walks away with something that they're happy with? And at the end of the day, I think that's probably the best thing that I can bring to the table.
Mr. Watson, it seems like today all we hear is the ever-escalating costs of doing business. What would you do to lower the operating costs of Pickens County operations? And would this be a priority if you were elected commissioner?
Okay, so we've all seen 515 and 108 on a Friday evening, just about any time of the year, right? Traffic's twice as much as it normally is. People are going north. Same thing on a Sunday night, they're headed back south again. This is what I was talking about earlier. I took the budgets from Gilmer, Gordon, Pickens, Cherokee, Fannin. What I found out was those people are headed to Fannin County. Fannin County last year showed $273 million spent by non-residents in their county. That county has 25,000 people. $65 million for hotel, motel, rental, like, whatever, an RV or something like that. So they take 6% of that $65 million, and they give it back to the county. The county gets half, Chamber of Commerce gets half. Chamber of Commerce spends it on tourism and advertising. The county can do what they want with it as far as, a project. Well, right there lowers the budget for the county, which lowers the tax rate, land taxes for the citizens of that county. I would like to get those people, instead of driving through Pickens County, which is the first mountain county and, coming up 515, stop them from driving to Fannin County and have them stop in Pickens County. And then let's have those revenues, which we don't have to increase population, we just take tourism dollars. Because I've made multiple trips between here in Florida, South Carolina, Alabama. I've never seen Jasper, city of Jasper, first mountain town, a building. But I've seen plenty for Blue Ridge.
Mr. Clay?
Great question.
Sure. It seems like today we hear, all we hear is the ever-escalating cost of doing business. What would you do to lower operating costs of Pickens County operations? And would this be a priority if you were elected commissioner?
Well, by operating costs, you're talking about the cost of what it takes to run the county.
Yes.
Well, the first thing you do is you gotta negotiate the deal on the front end. You have preset prices for what you're gonna pay for everything. In my job, I know what I'm paying for something before I call an order. The minute I pick up the phone, they don't have to tell me the price, because we've already negotiated the price. I know what my profit percentage is gonna be on that part that I'm buying. Yes, it would be a priority for me, but you've got to be able to go out, and you don't spend a dime unless you know what you're gonna spend before you leave the house. You're not spending your money. So you have to, when you work in the deal, you have to, the cheapest deal is not always the best deal, but sometimes the highest price one ain't always the best either. So you gotta be able to negotiate out and find the right price for the right product. And if we spend less, then there you go, operating costs come down. don't hire people we don't need, do hire people we do need. Hire people that produce, and how to say it.
Mr. Garner?
I think there's a couple of different ways to look at this. One, what people have to understand as we talk about growth, I think the best kind of economic development you can have is kind of like these guys are saying, is you get all these people coming up and down the highway, and we've got to figure out a way to pull them off the highway, spend their money here, and then they go home at the end of the night, right? We're not having to house those folks. But the one thing you've got to understand, and to answer your question directly, would it be a priority? I think the priority for me would be collaborating with our other municipalities, because I think they play an even bigger role in that. And the reason is because when you look at Highway 515 in Pickens County, right, there are 15 miles of Highway 515 in Pickens County. But guess what? 13 of those 15 miles are annexed inside the city of Jasper. So when we talk about growth, and we talk about highway and and this is part of what I was talking about earlier, because I have people that are supporting me that are asking me about Main Street and they're asking me about Highway 515, and I have to tell them, look, what you gotta understand is that growth is in the city of Jasper, it's not in the county. So I think my priority would be more dealing, and collaborating with the city of Jasper, which I have a great relationship with them, by the way. But looking at the big picture of things, and we talk about comprehensive land plan and all these things are character areas, we're wanting to preserve that outside area. I think the bigger issue is how do we collaborate with our municipalities and how do we form a plan there to welcome people, but at the same time, keep our county, the rural part rural and keep it preserved.
Mr. Taylor?
To me, if you want to keep costs down, we have to control growth. That's one of the main things. All new infrastructure we have to put in increases all of our taxes. If we want to put in new water lines, expand roads, all that sort of thing, it costs money, and until we start having impact fees put in place on any new growth, we, the taxpayers, are the ones that have to pay for all that infrastructure improvement, even though we've already paid for the roads to be there in the first place. Same thing with the water lines. As water lines have to be expanded, that's on us unless we have impact fees. So that'd be one of the biggest things is implementing impact fees on new development. The same thing with parks too. If we want to expand and have more parks, it's going to cost more money to do that. So that's kind of the thing. We want to have more parks and that would increase our taxes or stay where we are. Now, having people hop off the 4-lane as they're going up to LG or Blue Ridge to shop with us, buy gas here, that sort of thing, that will help because that's sales tax money for us. But if they are coming here to do things, that's again more infrastructure we have to put in for more vacation homes, more recreation events, that sort of thing. So to me, helping control the growth is one of the biggest things we can do.
Mr. Tucker?
It would be a priority for me to control operating costs of the county. I don't really think that probably lower the operating costs that you already have, because it takes a finite number of people to do the work of the county. You just have to make sure that the people that you hire are good workers and they'll do the job that they need to do for the county. As far as growth, a certain amount of tourism would be okay for the county to bring in dollars. But I think in the end, the county just needs a really good management plan to make sure that the budgeted money is properly spent where it needs to be spent to control overall costs. And use the plan to ensure that the growth is growing in areas that need to grow and not so much in places where the citizens don't want it to be. Because most of the growth, like I say, is mostly in the city of Jasper, not out in the county. But the county is going to grow because the people are going to come through here. And a management plan to ensure that all the money is spent in the proper way is the best way to control operating costs.
Mr. Timmons?
Just want to make sure I heard that question right. Will you repeat it one more time?
Sure. It seems like today, all we hear about is escalating costs of doing business. what would you do to lower the operating cost of Pickens County operations? And would this be a priority if you were elected commissioner?
So, obviously, it's gonna be a priority to lower expenses, right? But most everybody up here tonight has told you how to increase tax revenue. Nobody's told you how to cut operating costs. And there's a reason for that, because most politicians won't tell you, I don't know. Simple truth is, none of us have seen that operating budget to the finite level of detail that would be required to do that. You can see it online from the high level, but you can't get in to see the individual expenditures. So until we can have the opportunity to get in and see that budget, I don't think any of us can give an honest answer to that question. I will leave it at that.
Thank you. Mr. Schaus?
Yeah, so some of you may be aware, some of you don't, or may not be aware. I do a lot of open record here, Wes. A lot. It's not to throw anybody under the bus. It's to educate myself on what's really going on. Just today, I released one budget. I don't know how many of you seen it, but in the last 3 years, we've spent roughly $700,000 on economic development. One guy, one office. The county answered me back in that we haven't created one job on record. $700,000 of your taxpayers' money. So we're even doing something wrong, or we're going at something wrong. So we have to look at those kind of issues. I know numerous candidates up here say we shouldn't be creating jobs. Well, if we're not supposed to be creating jobs, then why are we dumping all that taxpayer money into one position that's even mills? So that's right there, $700,000. I think that's 0.7 something percent. And Josh is wrong here. You can see every dime that's being spent. All you have to do is go to the county office and ask Lisa Thomason or Chris, and they will give you every dime that's spent. It is open records. There's nothing stopping you. I've seen the majority of it. Hotel motel tax, as a lot of you may not be aware, that goes to the Chamber of Commerce. I think they got $80,000 last quarter. They went out and promoted flyers for Georgia Marble Fest and stuff. So where's our money really going? We have, another example, we have buildings that are being leased to different people that we're actually paying the maintenance for when they're nonprofit organizations that should be paying their own. So there's a lot of fat to trim that we can then roll into other programs and hopefully get you guys more bang for your buck, and the amenities and the roads fixed and the water lines and the sewers, if that's needed, that you guys are requesting. So.
Okay, guys, moving right along. We're starting with Mr. Leghorn this time. Have you talked to Pickens County government employees about current county affairs? And if so, what are their most important concerns?
Yeah, I've talked to several of the department heads. I've talked to several county employees. I spent nearly 5 years working in this department here. And pretty much all the county employees know each other, so we've talked about it. And their biggest concern is of course, it's always pay grade. And money to finish the projects. Everybody has got projects they want to get done. Every department. Every single department has got things they want to do. Just don't have the money to get them all done. They just, but they're working on it. And that's one thing I'll say for every county employee I know. They give it 110% every day. They're out there on Hill City Road right now. And that wind that's coming down through there, and those out there, they fix the road, they're getting ready to pave it. But that's pay scale and money to finish the projects. Get enough projects done that the citizens ain't mad at them. That's the God's honest truth. The county employees worry about the citizens of this county being upset with them that they're not getting accomplished what they want. They care. They honest to God care. But yes, I've talked to several department heads, county employees, and elected officials.
Mr. Carter?
Same here. I've had multiple conversations with several leaders and folks within county government. And not to be redundant, but I think the same thing as budget, particularly with the rec department. I mean, we're here tonight in this facility, and there are a lot of needs. There's a lot of folks that I've spoken to in the community over the last several months that have talked about parks. You know, one thing that has come up, and I know we're running on the east end, but one of the issues is West End Park. You know, is there a need for that? Well, like I said, I've been here a little over 20 years, but I spent almost 16 years on the west side, so I'm privy to that end of the county as well, in addition to the east side, and I understand the needs, and I understand the needs are not the same from Hinton Hill City as they are in Big Tree and Big Canoe. I understand that the needs of Grandview are not the needs of Leadville. You know, so it is one of those things that when you talk to county government, you talk to those folks, there are a lot of different departments that would like to do more. I think the rec department, and Mr. Cleghorn having been part of that, can probably confirm this, but you know, they're working on a lot smaller budget than a lot of the other departments are. So there are departments out there that want to do more, but they want to be responsible. I mean, I really do feel like the county employees and the department heads, I've spoken to several different ones that want to be responsible, and they know that the public's watching. And so it's like I was saying earlier, I mean, there are 14 different departments of government. There's some other things that kind of work under that as well. So we need to do our due diligence as commissioners with those budget concerns in every area of government, not just one or two. But that is, to answer your question, that's the biggest thing about here is those limited budgets for the things that they want to do.
Mr. Tatum?
No, I have not met with a lot of county employees. But that is one thing, if elected, I am looking very much forward to, is going to all the different departments and getting to know the people and seeing what their concerns are and how we can improve that, whether it's through pay, which seems to be one of the biggest issues, is that, you know, they're not getting paid enough, and what can we do to remedy that problem? But like they're saying too, you know, what else, anything we can do to help them feel more job satisfaction, like they're actually doing the people's work. So I'm looking forward to that aspect of it, if elected.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes, I'm talking to several employees of the county and a lot of the citizens, mostly citizens. And things they worry about are the schools and the roads. They're worried about the overcrowding of the schools and all of the growth, where all these kids are going to go to school. And the lodge for the west end of the county. The employees that live on the west end have to drive all the way to Jasmine and the east end for their kids to play ball and enjoy the facilities there here at Grover Park. They need to park like this on the west side somewhere. And they worry about keeping up with the surrounding counties and Roy Bay and the roads, traffic getting back and forth to work, and the city traffic. They wonder about the improvements to the roads and all the growth that's going to come their way where they live on the west end. And it's just mostly about the schools and the roads and the pay and how it can fit into the budget to take care of all the problems. And that's where the county needs a good management plan for that. And I have a business degree, and what I'm good at is making management plans for layout of money throughout the county to facilitate all the things the employees and the citizens would like to see this county become.
Mr. Tibbetts?
So yes, I have spoken to a few department heads and several employees of the county, and Mr. Cleghorn and I must have been talking to the same people, because I heard a lot of the same things. That they want fair compensation for the work that they do. They genuinely care about what happens in this community, and they want the resources to continue their work so that they can provide Pickens County with the best services that they possibly can.
Same thing, I mean, I've met most of the department leaders, I've met probably, I'd say 80-90% of the employees over time. They want to be able to provide for their family, and I would say the majority of them want to protect what they've grown up here. I think the majority of the county employees here have grown up here. They're not transients moved in, and they want to be able to provide, again, the serenity of this county, the going to Kroger for 5 minutes and winding up staying 30 minutes there, talking to people that you run into. However, to do that, it goes back to trimming the fat and bringing in revenues. CPIW was 7.2%, and they finally came out with the official number last year. Our employees got, I think, 5% raise. There was some bonuses thrown in. All our employees did get nice bonuses through the COVID stuff. But 5% raise didn't even keep them up with inflation. They're 2.2% behind. The only way we could supplement that is bringing in other revenue. We say that the West End's not going to be developed. There's 281 highway business or commercial properties on the West End right now that are undeveloped. You can go on the assessor's map, click zoning, and you can see that. So we've got to work with the right businesses here to get them in here. They're going to come. There's nothing you can do. It's already zoned. So we've got to work with them to get here. And we also, I'll go outside and yell it in the parking lot. Park and rec is the way to make the revenues in this county work. You want people to come here, you want them to spend a ton of money and then leave. You're never, ever going to sustain this county on Main Street or other little tourist things. We also have, for Parks and Rec, we've got some deep well pockets and things like that out in West End and East End that you could do some mini reservoirs for some of the water problems and things. So there's a lot we can do to go back and take care of these employees and make them feel that they're going to be stable and be able to provide for their families.
Mr. Watson.
Yeah, so I met with city water, county water, recycling, Keep Digging, beautiful. The reason I mentioned them is because we do supplement them, I think 25,000 between the county and the city. I've heard from Parks and Rec. I did not hear about bringing up the hourly rate as much as I heard about the growth that they're behind. Every department seems to be close to max or at max. Water, sewage. What Dave was saying about Parks and Rec, because I brought that up. I saw the numbers for the amount of people that they take in and inquired about that. It looked like it was a moneymaker, but I was told that they keep the costs down so that no child gets left out. You know, basketball, baseball, football, whatever. So I don't know that we're going to be able to make money off of that, but I'm all for making sure every child can participate. But yeah, the biggest thing is they seem to be, the growth is starting to catch up to them and they're behind.
Mr. Gardner, this has come up in the past. How would you engage your constituents when a business wants to come to the county that the residents don't support?
First of all, are y'all having fun? Let's keep the mood light. Give yourself a round of applause for being here, first of all. Thank you. Seriously, wow. That's a great question. You know, it's one of those things where, Chris, I mentioned this before. You know, if you look at my sign, my campaign sign, there's a lot of meaning there. There's 6 stars on my sign, which represent the 6 members of my family. 6 is also the number of imperfection of a very imperfect person. I thought about that, believe me, but I'm running a whole campaign based on being the voice for Pickens. That means the voice for people. So, like I was saying earlier, one of the qualities that I feel like I've been blessed with is I'm a good listener. I'm all about economic development, and I know spending time on the Chamber of Commerce, I was on that board 6.5 years, owning a business in the community as I do, I have an insurance business in town, I understand the need for businesses and good businesses to come in. But if I've got a pocket of residents that have a concern about that business for whatever reason, whether it's the type of business that it is or what it's going to cause that area, particularly on the East End, because we know as in the East End, the West End has a lot of beautiful, you know, open land. The East is where we get our views from, right? A lot of our east part of the county, I want to preserve those views, and so I don't want to bring in a business that's going to bother the tranquility of that. I'm going to entertain that business. If somebody wants to come here and do business, I'm not going to keep them out. But if I've got a pocket of citizens that come to me with a concern for whatever reason, then I'm going to listen to those citizens. At the end of the day, though, what we've got to do is we've got to put that template up against the comprehensive land plan that we already have in place until 2028, and we have to look at that. All right, I'm all about smart growth, but that smart growth involves 5 different things. SMART for me is an acronym: slow, managed, appropriate, responsible, and targeted. And I'll talk about those later if I have time, because I'm about out of time.
But I'm gonna listen to the people, and if it's something that the majority of the people do not want, then I have no problem voting against that or doing what I need to do to try to keep it out, if that's something that we as a commission can legally do. And that's another big step too.
Josh?
Very much, I mean, if there's some type of business coming in that the people here don't want, anything we can do to keep it out, like such as that Rivian plant they're building in Social Circle. If something like that tried to come here, yes, I would try to fight that. I know that we don't want that sort of thing. Small businesses, I know most of us want, and that sort of thing we support. You know, someone wanting to open up their own business, but someone wanting to put some type of industrial business in the wrong area that doesn't agree with the comprehensive plan, that's what we have to try and control, is that sort of thing. So anything, like they said, anything legally we can do to stop that is what we would want to do. And that's what I hear most from people I've talked to is, you know, wanting to control, especially commercial growth in the rural parts of the county, besides, you know, subdivisions. Those are the two biggest things. So just trying to keep the right growth in the right parts of the county. That's what I'm trying to work on.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes, in the end, it's what the citizens want for their county. That's the most important thing. Businesses come second. So if it's a business that the people don't want, I would have no problem voting against it. Although, we probably have to get together the citizens and the people from the company so they can discuss their problems with the company and what the company can do to resolve those issues. But in the end, the citizens don't want the business in their area. It's what the citizens want that matters the most.
Mr. Jennings?
Yeah, so I'm a really big advocate for opening lines of communication, right? Whether that be from the county to the local municipalities or from the constituents to their elected officials. I was just at the planning and zoning meeting this past month, and there was a business there that was wanting to expand and do some stuff, and there were several residents that were there that were voicing opposition to the expansion. And what happened next was really cool. So they all ended up at the board table, and they essentially negotiated the path forward, right? There are very few problems in this county that we couldn't tackle by working together and making sure that we empathize with each other and recognize that everybody wants what's best for each other, right? So as a commissioner, the biggest goal that we would have is to be a voice for the people who elect us, right? So we have this comprehensive land plan we've got to measure everything against. And you got to take into consideration too that if the land is already zoned, there's probably not a whole lot the county commissioners can do to stop that if it was already appropriately zoned. So all that being said, open lines of communication, and you've got to keep the people who elected you and sent you here to represent them at the forefront of what you do.
Sheriff?
That's almost a political suicide question. People who want growth or that don't want growth. So you've got to balance that, and this is America, and people have the right to do what they want with their land. However, I am very firm on you can't cause a blight on other people's properties, inconvenience them. And what I'm getting at is we need to go back to our planning and development, and we need to put some aesthetics, things like that in place. That someone that's got a beautiful farm, they bought 10 acres and they're building, but all of a sudden someone can't come put a tin can up next to you. We've experienced that. It's not the county, it's in the city. I don't like it. That's Woodstock to me, in the industrial parks there. We also have to just do what's right. And I'll tell all of you, about 2 years ago, and I think Chris knew about it, I have 46 acres at the airport, and I had a big money offer for Copart to come here. There was nothing the county could do to stop it. This zone for it. It would have been a junkyard on our airport. So sometimes we have to balance how much revenue something's coming in based upon what's right for our county, what's right for our community. But again, going back to the Copart thing, we need to go back and make sure that your properties are protected in the areas that aren't already, and even the ones that have zoning. Some of you may have residential, it's got commercial next to it. Let's go put some ordinances in place. Let's go put some aesthetic things. Let's go put some more setbacks in place to make sure that you don't have that business that you don't want right next to you. And that's how we protect everyone's property.
Mr. Watson?
So The bottom line is, the short answer to this is, I'm gonna do what the majority of my citizens that sit me here want me to do. But what David was talking about, if you've ever been to the Highlands in North Carolina, there could be building codes in place to make everything match aesthetically. I mean, everything blends, even down to the Wendy's there. You gotta have, I mean, there's gonna be growth. You wanna put stops on how much growth there is, but we have to keep the aesthetics of this place. This is what people come here for. So I would just maintain that we should have a code, a building code where everything blends. To where, I've had it happen to me too. I tried to do a wedding venue and the county told me, you're within your rights. Legally, you can have it, but you'll never get it. Because every citizen in that general area, that's not the majority of the county. That's just the people in the general area that was buying the property. We're gonna block it. I don't know that we should go about it that way, but I do think majority should rule.
Mr. Claiborne?
Everybody up here said something about we're gonna fight we can't fight the growth. And they're right. It's coming. What was it, me talked about the other day, 1987, that 4 line come through here? If we wanted to stop all the growth in Pickens County, the battle would have started in 87 when that highway came in. That's when we can put ordinances in place, like David, like Watson said, setbacks, aesthetics, make sure that the zoning is correct. I don't want nobody building I'm not happy with the building that's going on out there on 53 right now, because I'm gonna be able to hear it, but it was zoned correct. Make sure the rules are in place, make sure everything is taken care of, make sure the citizens are taken care of. Now, if something comes in, and it comes before the 3-man commission, if the citizens on the west end of the county that I represent, after I have explained to them what the benefit of it being here is, tells me no, and we've tried every avenue, if they say no, it's no. It's just the way it has to be.
Chris, I want to add something to that.
Yes, sir.
So, I think as the commissioners and the planning and zoning and chamber of commerce and economic development, there are areas in this county to develop and not bother. Right now, it seems like the Wild West. People just, I don't bother 10 acres, put me a building up. There is industrial land that's undeveloped here. There's commercial land in great places of development. And there's even a federal opportunity zone down around Tate Nelson that a lot of people don't know about. So if we can somehow all come together to let people know we're open for business. I don't want my child driving, my 2 children or my grandchildren driving to Kennesaw or Holly Springs to have to find a good quality job. But if we'll let them know we're in business and try to advertise and get all together and collectively on the same page and try to steer them to the right areas, I think a lot of it will stop.
Okay, the next question is for you, Mr. Garner. If elected, in that case, Mr. Tato. If elected, what do you wish to accomplish during your term as county commissioner?
My main things is doing as much as we can to preserve this lifestyle that we have here. I want this county to be a place where my kids can live, and just the same way I grew up, in a rural community. So as much as we can do to preserve that, that's what I'm wanting to do. I know we're going to have some growth, but do it through encouraging large tract homes or family compounds, that sort of thing. Those are great things for families to do. And I personally don't mind that I have to drive 45 minutes to work every day, because that has kept I'd rather drive to the city to work and live in the country than have to work and live in the city. I don't mind that a bit. I've seen how Southern Cherokee County has been absolutely destroyed. And that's what I don't want to happen here, so my kids can enjoy this country lifestyle that we have here. And that's what I want to work towards, to keep that for them.
Mr. Tucker?
I'd like to see a recreation center like Rover Park built on the west end of the county somewhere so that the kids over there and the families don't have to travel so far for their recreational use. Apartments, hiking, trails, ball fields, place for the kids to play ball and have a good time. Also would like to see that the forested areas are protected from outlandish growth, uncontrollable growth in areas where the citizens don't want it. I'd also like to make sure that there are economic studies done before any subdivision or business of any kind is done in an area to see the impact on the animals and the forested areas and the watershed, to make sure that it is built right if it's going to be built, and that all the animals are protected for their habitat and not just run out of the county and wild roads everywhere, and to make sure that the roads and the fire departments for the areas where the growth is taking place. I've had a lot of people ask me about down around Worley Crossing, about fire departments and their fire ratings for their house insurance, and is it going to go up because it's a new subdivision? So they're worried about that, and crime, and we need to make sure that we have enough law enforcement for when you have growth, you automatically have crime come along with it. So we need to make sure that we have the law enforcement in place to help facilitate the growth of crime, make sure that we don't get overrun with criminal events due to the growth in the county, and make sure that the roads and the schools are all kept up with the growth that's coming.
Mr. Timmons?
So there's really two things that I would want to get started on early on, right? So number one is water. Pickens County is the only county in the entire state of Georgia that doesn't have a major lake or waterway flowing through it. Almost every drop of water that we consume is imported from either Cherokee, Gordon, or Gilmer County. That's a problem we've got to get resolved, right? There's several different ways of going about doing that. The problem is they're all 10 to 15, 20-year projects, depending on which one you pick. We have the potential to get water from Carter's Lake through the Army Corps of Engineers. We have the potential to build a reservoir somewhere in the county. We also sit on several aquifers. We have the potential of drilling wells to pull that water out, but we've got to get a way to treat that water once we get it there. But eventually somebody's going to have to take a step and actually get us started down that path, otherwise it'll never get finished. And the other thing that I would really like to see happen is a park somewhere on the west end of the county. It doesn't have to be as big as Roper Park. Brian and I were talking about this earlier, Passive Parks, I believe is what he called it, where you have a playground and walking trails. But what I would like to do is incorporate those with historical landmarks. If you look through Pickens County's comprehensive growth plan, the major theme that goes throughout that entire 150 or 60 page document is preserving Pickens County's history and culture. So one really good way to do that is to put a park with a historical landmark. Get families out to enjoy the inherent beauty that Pickens County offers. You've got playgrounds for kids to play on. You can have birthday parties there. It's a win-win. Anytime you can align efforts where you're accomplishing multiple goals through one project, I think the county and everybody around it wins. So that's the two things that I would like to see really quick.
Mr. Souse?
Repeat that again, Chris. Please, or whoever, I'm sorry.
That's okay. If elected, what do you wish to accomplish during your term as county commissioner?
We can talk about parks, we can talk about infrastructure, we all know those problems. My number one goal is, whether it's 4 years or 8 years from now when I hang up my hat, just as I've done in my private companies, is that the citizens said, that man served us honestly and well. I want to make sure that when I walk out the door and leave, you can stay as long as you want, Chris, you can stay as long as you want, that we are set up financially, infrastructure-wise, and everything in between for our future. That's what I want to accomplish with the other two commissioners. but mainly that it was done honest and it was done serving the citizens of this county the right way.
Mr. Watson, this is gonna sound like a political statement, but it's not. I genuinely want to lower property tax, and I want to do that through tourism revenue. Outside of what I said earlier, there's a whole nother, it's called ecotourism. It's a $181 billion industry. Guess what they do? They like to leave the city, come to the country. They want to be on a working farm, horse ranch, cattle ranch, food farm, spend a week in the community doing stuff the community does. They want to stay in like a tree house or a yurt, or a hobbit house, something like that. They project that by 2027, it's going to be over a $300 billion industry. Guess what we already have without doing anything? We have that. Pickens County is that. So I just want to generate revenue without generating population. And one other thing, like Josh was talking about, we do need soon to get something going, a reservoir where we can supply water. The project that was going on, they had to shelve it because when COVID came, I guess it was like a $2 million project. COVID came, it got set back. By the time COVID was over with building costs and materials, it's up to almost $9 million. So right now we only pay a little over $1 for water per gallon from other counties. It was going to push it up to like $6. But if we start now, building, everybody up here is talking about the future. It needs to happen because, and I keep saying I don't want growth, but I mean, we're going to get some growth. It's, you can't do anything about it. So we definitely, I would like to start looking at the future also.
Mr. Baker. I would like to see the Grandview Watershed project up there. I'd like to see it finished. It's almost there. We just need to get the treatment facility done. I would like to see a reservoir built somewhere in the county that is beneficial to everybody. Like they've got one on Yellow Creek Road out there, Cherokee County. It's something beneficial for everybody. And I would like to figure out a way to be sure that people that work for the county are being paid what they're worth without, and to add what Watson said, whether it be commercial growth, tourism, but figure out some way to pay the employees of this county what they're worth without saddling the citizens of the county with added tax expense. That's a tough road to hoe. But it's a problem we've got to face because we've got to have good employees, and good employees are needed everywhere. And if we can figure out how to pay our employees pay the county employees what they're worth, and not strap the citizens with it, that would be good.
Gary, I think that, well, the first thing is I want to make sure I'm not that commissioner that raised your taxes. I want to lower them like Watson was saying as well. That's number one. This may surprise a lot of folks. My opponent and I really are not far off in our platform. I want to preserve and I want to keep things as rural as possible. But the reality of it is we know the growth is inevitable. The growth's coming. We have to have a plan and we have to manage that. One of the things that I want to do is I do want to look at the water sources because that is a dire need for our community right now. Now, the city of Jasper is pumping out over 2 million gallons a day. So, the more dire need for water, because when we talk about water and sewage, those are really two separate issues. We tend to kind of lump those together, but there are two separate issues. The county currently doesn't operate a sewage system. But if we're doing our due diligence according to the comprehensive land plan, if you look through there, one of the jobs that we have is always to evaluate and expand our water and sewage sources to meet the needs of our community, whether we agree with it or not. And so I'm running a campaign, as I said, based on being the voice of the people. Those are things that I want to try to do But back to Clayhorn's point, there's a saying in business that goes something like this: if you take care of your customers first and your employees second, everything else will take care of itself. Well, in this instance, our customers are you, our citizens. And if we take care of our citizens and then we take care of our internal employees, and as Clayhorn said, pay them what they're worth, then I think everything else will really take care of itself. And that's the legacy that I want to leave behind in the 2.5 years that we'll have running this unexpired term on the east side.
Mr. Tate?
You start with me. I can go again if you want me to.
You know, you guys are gonna have to help me.
It's late. Mr. Tucker, do you believe that Pickens County residents are being effectively served by having only 3 county commissioners? And would you support, again, let me just preface this by, this is a difficult thing to change, but would you support increasing the number of commissioners to 5?
That's a good question. I think that 3 county commissioners are probably all that's needed at the moment, but if growth continues to be a problem as it moves forward, I think that it wouldn't be difficult to increase it to 5. You would have so many people in the county that it would be hard for 3 commissioners to basically serve all the citizens in all the areas, east and west. There would be just too much population. It'd probably be better to divide it into 5 areas. That way each commissioner would have more personal time with its citizens. And the projects would probably be easier to manage with 5 votes as opposed to 3. That way, more citizens would have a vote in what was being done in their area. Because the areas for each commissioner would be smaller, and therefore the citizens would have more of a hand in solving all the problems for their area, what was going on in their particular area, and not be having to be served by one commissioner for the entire area.
Mr. Tibbetts?
I don't know that I need two minutes to answer this question. I'm not really, I don't know that we necessarily need 5 commissioners right now, but as our population continues to grow, if the need warrants to have 5 commissioners, I certainly would be opposed to it.
Shouts.
I don't have a problem with it. I think back originally when the vote went, I think that was the way it was supposed to go. I think some people went boo-hooing down to the state capitol and had it turned to 3, if I remember right. But the more the merrier when you're at the level trying to plan. In my businesses, if it was just me sitting at the table trying to figure it all out, I wouldn't be near as successful as I would with when I brought one person in. Now there's 4 people in my circle, actually it's 5 of us, that make all the decisions. And there's always that one time that someone thinks outside that box that the other person wasn't thinking. I think it would be better representation. One thing I do hear out there is that's going to cost us more money. Not really. If you look at what the West and East commissioners make, it's purely a drop in the bucket. I think what, 10,000, 11,000 a year or something like that. So I think the people would be better served. And I also think, going all the way back to your sunshine, that it's going to stop any underhandedness or 2 people. You know, if you got 2 people that's for growth and 1 person against it or vice versa, you already got a problem here. So I think, I don't know, you know, what the legalities of it. I know it's a process, but I'm not opposed to it.
Mr. Watts?
Yeah, I'm not either. There's, 12,800 people on the west side, 34,000 people in the total county, so I guess that means the city's got some and the rest are on the other side. I think 3 is a good number, actually. I'm with David on that. 5 would cause some real problems. And that's pretty much it.
Brian?
Not now, and not no time in the foreseeable future. 3 is a good number for the amount of citizens we've got. That Three is a good number for the amount of citizens that are gonna get involved enough to contact their commission chair, their commission. I mean, as the county grows, yeah, it'll have to be. And I know, and yes, I know it's very rough to get it to go from 3 to 5, but as long as we're at the level or anywhere close to where we're at right now, I think 3 is a solid number now.
Scar?
Chris, I agree. I think right now, we don't need the need for 5. If there was a need down the road, I'd be open to it if that's what the people wanted. You know, if they felt like we needed to go to that, I think 3 is a good number, simply because, you know, that keeps any 2 commissioners from getting together and forming a quorum. If you have 5, then all of a sudden you have 2 that could potentially powwow. And as we know, living in a small town, a lot of us know each other. You know, you're naturally going to run into a situation where 2 people have to show up at the same restaurant. I mean, you know, there's just things like that that are going to have to happen, and so you've got to be careful about that. I think you open yourself up with a 5-man commission to do that, but once the population gets to that level and that need develops, you know, it's definitely something we could visit. But with the other guys, I think right now 3 is nice.
I also think three is completely sufficient for the size we are. You know, once we get larger, yes, maybe, but the good thing about 3 is it keeps us all honest. You know, we can't, 2 of us gang up on the rest, you know, secretly before the meeting or something like that. So you know, I think 3 is a good number for us.
All right, guys, this is gonna be the last question.
Okay, and if I got this correct, Mr. Tippins. Okay, guys, we're shifting gears just a little bit. What is your position on cleaning voter rolls, conducting canvasses, and audits?
So cleaning voter rolls is obviously important, right? We don't need people who are ineligible to vote. As far as audits go, you know, there's a lot that goes into that, right? So when we talk about the 2020 election, there's varying degrees of, I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. You caught me off guard with that one. I didn't see that coming. So you can, when you talk about auditing elections, it's essentially getting back to the point that the 2020 election was stolen, right? And we can argue that point back and forth. At the local level, I don't think you had anything to worry about. I think if you want to talk about the 2020 election getting stolen, it was done at the state and national level, right? There were laws put in place that allowed ballot harvesting and all that kind of stuff. And I think now the state legislature is moving to get away from all that stuff. Man, I have very rarely in my life been struck speechless, but you got me. But I will say that we have a great board of elections in place that would take care of that for us. And that the county commissioners wouldn't necessarily have anything to do with it. So, Mr. Shells.
Let me ask you. I thought you were going to answer for everybody, man, that you come from the board.
Mr. South, just one point though, but doesn't the county chairman appoint the chairperson of the board of elections?
Yeah, so the way the law is written is House Bill 683 that was passed through the Georgia, or State Bill 683 that was passed through the Georgia legislature. It's comprised of Pickens County has a 5-person board of elections. The Republican Party nominates 2 individuals for each one of those seats. The Democrat Party does the same thing. The Board of Commissioners actually nominates and recommends the single chairman of the board. And that person is essentially voted on by the entire Board of Commissioners. If that answers your question. It's a 5-person board, 2 are Republicans, 2 are Democrats. There's 1 chairman in the middle. That's essentially the tiebreaker.
Mr. South.
I guess hypothetically, I don't think any elected official should be appointing anyone to somewhere where the votes are being counted or scrutinized. That's me personally. I just don't see how you can be the head or the chairman and appoint who's controlling or could be controlling something. As far as protecting the integrity of voting, you know, I have a hard time with that question because, being honest, I would never go act like I'm someone else or use a dead person's ID to try to sway a vote or an election. So I think, you know, I don't think this is on the commissioner's level, but anything
that can be done to protect America's voting system needs to be done. Times have changed. We all have iPhones and stuff. There's probably some processes they can put through that to make sure that the people that are supposed to be voting are voting and that they're registered and that we don't have any kind of, I'm not saying there was or wasn't, but there's no collusion and no attempted, thwarts of an election.
Mr. Watson.
I'll say it, 2020 election was stolen. The vending machines need to go away. I'd love to go back to paper ballots. I also would like to stop the media from reporting on the outcome before the outcome is officially done. I remember back when, this is gonna date me, Bush Senior ran, and I voted, 30 minutes before the polls closed, got home and, I can't remember that guy's name, Ron, it was one of Clinton's advisors, he died in an airplane crash. Why is he smiling? Because Clinton just won the state of Georgia. Well, Clinton didn't win the state of Georgia. But how many people didn't go with that last 30 minutes to go vote because of the fact the media said it was over? They did the same thing when Kerry ran against Bush Jr. Reported all day that Kerry was running away with it. If I recall correctly, Bush won by more than anybody ever won as far as the race goes. I think there should be one Democrat and one Republican to count every vote. It drives me crazy how they're able to throw us out middle of the day, middle of the night, and they're the ones counting. This ballot harvesting thing, I can't stand that. That's illegal. These drop boxes. If you're homebound, then I understand how you can do a mail-in ballot, military mail-in ballot. Other than that, you should go to the poll and vote.
Repeat the question, the entire question.
Okay. What is your position on cleaning voter rolls, conducting canvasses, and doing election audits?
Cleaning the voter roll up, I mean, there should be a time, you shouldn't be on there if you've not voted in 5 years, you've not took part in any election whatsoever, you ought not be on there. You ought to have to re-register. And it's aggravating, a little aggravating to re-register, yeah, but that'll keep you going to the polls, but doing your civic duty. And I agree with pretty much everything Watson said. The ballot boxes are a joke. Mail-in ballots, because you don't want to have to fool with it, that's a joke. Homebound, military. Now, early voting, I get behind early voting 30%, because it's in person. You come and do it in person. Matter of fact, we do it here, right down the hallway, classroom 3. Yeah, there's got to be, we've got to figure out some way to audit those processes. And what happened in 2020 cannot happen. On either side. I mean, we don't need it on either side, Republican or Democrat. We've got to get something done so that doesn't ever happen again.
Mr. Garner.
I don't think there's anything more important to our democracy than the integrity of elections. I'm not a big fan of the machines. And I'm not just saying this because he said it, but I like the paper ballot. I don't like mailing them out necessarily. I know there are some folks that are homebound, but I'm kind of of the opinion that you need to verify your, face-to-face. And I don't have a problem, obviously, verifying with the driver's license or valid ID, but you need to be there, I think. I mean, there are people that do both absentee. Like he said, with military and homebound folks, I get it. But at the same time, I'm all for, auditing, going back and checking, recount, doing anything that we can do to protect the integrity of an election. Because without that, I mean, we don't have democracy the way we know it. That's one of the great things about this country, is that, we have the process that we do to vote for people. Every one of you have the right to vote for any of us up here. And that's what makes this country the greatest in the world. We've got to do everything we can within our power. And I don't know, again, how relevant, I know we do a point and this, that, and the other. It's the county commission bringing it back to the perspective of tonight. But anything that we can do to protect the integrity of our election, if we feel like something has been compromised, or if there's a process that needs to be reviewed to make sure that we do protect that integrity, then we need to do that. That's part of the due diligence.
I think that's why the question was asked, because it is now a part of the commissioners, is the Board of Elections. So, you know, again, there are certain things as a county that we can choose to do and choose not to do. So I think that's why this question is so important.
Absolutely. Mr. Taylor?
I'm for, you know, anything we need to do for transparency, whether it be cleaning the old roads, any audits that need to be done once the election happens, to check and make sure the machines work correctly. You know, that's the kind of thing we need to do, to check and make sure everyone's confidence is there. So far as the chairman of the election board, you know, we'll need to pick someone that has high integrity, you know, is well respected in the community. The people aren't going to question, you know, he or she do the right thing, or they shaking it, that kind of thing. We want to make sure we nominate a qualified person. That is very important that we do that. And that's probably one of the most important things we do, is make sure that whoever this person is we nominate is a person of integrity.
And Mr. Tucker?
As far as cleaning the voting rolls, I think our Board of Elections in Pickens County does a very good job of making sure that the rolls are proper and people that are supposed to vote can vote, and people that shouldn't vote are not on the rolls. For the integrity, I don't think anyone should be allowed to vote either absentee ballot or in person without a picture ID. I mean, I just think that's one way of making sure that the integrity of the election is kept fair and honest. And also, when the votes are counted, I think there should be a representative from the Democrat Party, the Republican representative, and someone from the Libertarian Party should be present when all the votes are counted, to make sure that everything is on the up and up. But overall, I really think our Board of Elections in Pickens County does a very good job to make sure that everything is done proper and right.
So, yeah, thank you guys for participating this evening. Please remember, early voting, I believe, starts May 2nd. And that's one great thing about Pickens County, even though we may not have tons of people show up to meetings, but we always show up to vote. So just remind your neighbor, and let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.